And the most important role to your company, right, to serve more people in your community, to create patient success, to create business success, number one is sales. The rest of it is support. So let's talk about this front desk role and its dual purpose. So I started work with another group recently. And what I realized was probably the last 3 or 4 groups I've done work with, this was a required step. So when people come into the front desk success training program, I don't do this work. We just start and we go. And what I've found over the years is there's a couple of factors that affect who's successful in the class and who's not. And what I've realized is I've not controlled for what I'm going to share with you today. So this was not one of the things that I had controlled for. I only learned what I'm going to share with you today when I started working one-on-one with the businesses to really look at their patient life cycle and make sure that everybody in the business understood their role in a completed plan of care, right? So once we sat down to do that, right, where do I start? You start at the beginning. So I start at the front desk. I look at, okay, what's occurring here at this first touch point? What's occurring here at these people that are the entry point to the business? What is occurring here or not occurring here with these people that are told to start to build a relationship that will last throughout the entire life cycle, that are told to be problem solvers? Think about that. To be a problem solver, that means you got to focus and you got to listen to those new patient calls. And if you're going to set providers up for success, then there needs to be a process to be followed after every new patient phone call. And if you're getting, 50, 100 new patient calls a week, which one of the clinics I'm working with is, but they're getting those phone calls, then do we have these people set up for success to do this? And what I just described to you is one of the roles of the front desk, right? Your front desk has a dual role. And let me go back and tell you what I've seen again in the past and with my experience in the past is I always make, when I work one-on-one, I make the practice manager, the owner, have the front desk team members write down all their tasks. They don't have to break them up into daily, weekly, monthly. I just say, I want the front desk team to get together and I want them all to agree and give you a list of tasks that they must do regularly. Some of the stuff on the list is done weekly, some is done monthly, but I want all the tasks. I have yet to get a list that is shorter than 2 pages, right? So at least it goes on to a second page. And it is everything under the sun. And I love to then ask, is there a checklist? And the front desk manager, the practice manager, the owner will always tell me there's a checklist. And I say, let me see it. Well, the front desk have it. The front desk do it. So that means there is no checklist. So what we have is almost 2 pages long of tasks that the front desk is supposed to do. And then my first question is there a checklist, yes or no? It's typically no. The second question I ask is, who is responsible? This is my favorite question. The second question is always the better question. My second question is, who is responsible for this list? And more times than not, the first word that is said is everyone. If everyone is responsible for that whole list, then really nobody knows what their primary role is except for to be task masters. If there is nobody checking in on this checklist list and their accountabilities, then they prioritize. This is really, really, really important. If you don't have accountabilities for your front desk, if you don't have checklists for your front desk, then they set up, rightfully so, 100% rightfully so, they decide the priorities of the day. They decide the priorities of the week. They decide the priority of the month. Think about that for a second. Oh, we need more front desk people. This is where my partner, Todd Wickstrom, which I love this term he came up with, we turn our front desk into the junk drawer of our business, right? Everybody has a junk drawer at home. We turn the front desk into the junk drawer. We need this task done. Who should do it? The front desk. So we keep adding to their tasks without a realization of what their true role is within the company. And there could be 5 front desks, and boy, I've run into this. It's worse the bigger it gets. 4, 5, 6 front desk people all working off the same list. And when you look at the list, one of the first things I say is, not all these tasks require all 6 people. So who owns this task? Well, everybody does, and it's inefficient as hell. And all it proves is the owner and the front desk manager have no idea what the roles are of the front desk. This is why front desk, this catch-all term. Front desk is saying junk drawer. If this is you, what you need to do, I wanted to share that this is going to be very actionable, because what I want you to do at the end of this today is go to your front desk team members and have them list out all their tasks. And by the way, while you have them do that, ask them who's in charge of it. This will start to give you a feel for what they, by the way, this is pretty interesting, what they believe is important. What you'll find is when you start to ask them what do you spend most of your time on, it's downstream problems, it's downstream stuff. So not only are they managing tasks, but they're trying to put out fires all the time because they don't understand the priorities of the task. Because why? Because you're not holding them accountable. Okay? So there's nothing wrong with accountability, and actually there's success and growth with accountability. And there's nothing wrong with checklists, because that's what you hold people accountable for after you put the tasks on the checklist in the order they need to be done, right? I'll never forget when I first did this with my team, and for the morning checklist, check your email was like number 5. And that just drove them crazy. Because what's everybody do in the morning? They come in, they turn the computer on. Oh, I check the schedule. And it's like, okay, don't engage your email, and you follow up with them. And that's hard for them. So you've got to set the priorities of these tasks. And you've got to tell them what's most important that they do in the morning when they first arrive. And then what needs to be done, I just call it midday, and then what needs to be done end of day. And what I found is the most valuable, by the way, is that end of day checklist. That way that person that comes in the morning really is just doing a checklist. And maybe 10 minutes worth, because they're checking voicemail and they're checking for cancels or things like that. Then they're checking the schedule, they're making sure that the new patient charts are in order. But the person who did that, who finished the night before, did all that. So really the nighttime checklist really sets the next day up for success. It also makes sure that nobody is arriving who has authorizations required, who has run out of visits, any of that stuff. So this checklist portion of understanding the task portion of the role is really, really important. So let's jump over. So your front desk has a dual role. Number 1 really is this admin role, I think is the best way to put it, right? It's an admin role. And that's what I've been talking about for the last 8 minutes, is this admin role. It's a lot of support work. I like the word support. It's not a negative word, because, by the way, in phase 2 of your patient life cycle, the providers run support for the front desk team. And then in phase 3, the front desk runs support for the provider. So there's, this support word is very important. So this task admin portion of the front desk is more of a support role, right? Because they're doing this work behind the scenes that without this work, everything else would implode. Yet they're doing the work that's needed to be completed, right, to create this happy patient who will arrive, pay, stay, and do your marketing with you. But they're doing the work after the sales portion has been completed. So the dual role of the front desk is admin and sales. And if you look at anybody's to-do and task list, they've just bashed this all together. And the most important role to your company, right, to serve more people in your community, to create patient success, to create business success, number 1 is sales. The rest of it is support. Without the sales portion, you don't need the support. That's what cracks me up about all the task lists. I'm like, but without the new patients coming and going, you don't need the support role. And the other thing is, when you put people on the list who drop off after visit 1, all that work is for naught. So this sales role needs to be better understood, needs to be better grasped, needs to be better hired, needs to be better trained. I tell people all the time, you look at front desk job postings, and somewhere in there is always answer phones, get people scheduled, and it's just buried in the task list. And I'm like, totally unacceptable, because these are 2 roles. So the company I'm working with now, the task that the team brought back, of course, was answer telephones, get people scheduled, was on the list, manage cancels and reschedules, and there was one other thing. So I just circled them. Coincidentally, those were all bundled up together. I just circled them and said, these are the priorities. There was probably about 60 tasks on that list. Mind you, there was some overlap. But I just circled those 4 and went, these are the priority. So we copied them, moved them to the top, put a little dotted line, and then everything else below it turned into a checklist. Everything else below it was made into workflows. because some of the stuff was, like check insurance benefits and stuff like that. There's a lot of, the other thing is, if you're not doing the checklist, there's a lot of inefficiencies. And I will guarantee you today, I could call 100 front desk people across the country and ask them if you are busy all day long. And 110% of them will tell me how busy they are. And I say, what do you do? They'll go, well, and they'll just spew off all this stuff. The salespeople should tell me they are busy answering the phone, taking care of potential new patients, and once they get scheduled, they're making sure they arrive, pay, stay, and do our marketing with us. The admin side should say, well, I run support for all the new patients. I run support for the current patients, right? We could say it's retention, right? And that should be that concise answers. But I will guarantee you, if you go to your front desk today, I challenge all of you to go to your front desk today and ask them, what do you do during the day? If you had it broken up like this, the salespeople will tell you they answer the phone and help new patients get scheduled so they will arrive, pay, stay, and do the marketing with us. And I manage these people from the moment I pick the phone up till the moment their providers greet them. The other half, again, would tell you about this support role. I do insurance checks. I make sure authorizations are complete. Why do you make sure authorizations are complete? So nobody shows up unexpectedly. So everybody is ready to complete a plan of care, right? These are the answers you need from your front desk. And I'm going to go out on a limb and bet the farm that not one front desk person will answer that way. Because, let's double back to the beginning, we have set them up as the junk drawer. We make them all admin. We call them admin. Here's your tasks to do. There you go. Worked with a clinic in the past that has like 6 front desk people. They were getting ready to hire a new one. I said, why do you need a new one? What are they going to do? Because my thought was, oh, we're going to hire this person to answer the phone. They said, no, we need a new one in one of our 4 clinics, 3 clinics. And I said, well, what are they going to do? And they sent me the task list. And I said, this is the task list for everybody. They say, yeah. And I said, so who's in charge of these tasks? Everybody. Who's responsible for these tasks? Everybody. And we got in a room with the admin people and the owners, and I started to break down the tasks and talk about, these aren't for everybody. And the owner shot up real quick and said, well, what are they supposed to do? And I said, well, can you answer me this question first? How much is a new patient worth to your company? I don't know, I'm going to round up or whatever. I'm just going to say no, $1,000. I say, so if someone is managing someone who is potentially going to generate, right, through a new patient phone call, $1,000 for your business. If they take that new patient call and they hang up and they're waiting for the new patient call, that's going to be worth $1,000. Is it okay if we don't give them busy work? And there's a lot of dead air in the room. Now, mind you, when they hang the phone up, they're setting the patient up for success. They're setting the provider up for success. So there's more work to be done. So it wasn't that they were sitting there doing nothing. I wanted them to send out the welcome email. I wanted them to put the notes into the system so the provider would have the goals, right? But just to hand everybody a list, everybody answers the phone, everybody helps the patient who walks up to the front desk, right? So this dual role is this salesperson and this admin support person. And here's the other thing. If the salesperson is sitting at the front desk to answer the phones, then they're going to get caught up in the admin whirlwind. And that admin support role is a whirlwind. Remember, people, I've done the front desk work. I answered new patient calls for a year, and I covered the front desk for multiple years. The front desk is a whirlwind of stuff, right? Current patients calling, current patients in front of you, current patients arriving, collecting copays, sending out emails, dealing with insurance stuff, dealing with authorization. So that sales role, now again, we're talking about this dual role of the front desk and why I hate calling them the front desk. That sales role should be in an area maybe behind the front desk or even in the back office. So all of a sudden they're literally and figuratively not front desk. This is why I hate that term. But I have to use it because otherwise I'll lose everybody. If I say salesperson, you guys will go, what? If I say admin support person, you guys think of the person in the back office, right? But really, that's how this role needs to be separated and needs to be called. And literally, the person who sits at the front desk is a front desk person, but their primary role is admin support. They manage current patients. They do all those a lot of the daily tasks that go with managing current patients, which we could file under retention. Remember, it goes marketing, sales, retention, in that order. So it's not that important to be working on your retention program when your sales program isn't dialed in, because your sales program will impact your retention program. And by the way, your sales program will impact your marketing program. This is why I want the salespeople to have the space to do their job and the time to do their job. And this doesn't mean, by the way, get over this bullshit of 20-minute phone calls. I've been listening to phone calls all week. I listened to 2 phone calls this week. One was 10 minutes, 35 seconds, and the other was like 8:24. They both were brutally long. And it was an in-network clinic, and they took both of those people's insurance. I'm not saying this is an in-network issue. I'm saying everybody is spending too much time on the phone. And so again, if your salesperson is trained properly and understands their role, they can be efficient. There is efficiency involved in this. And by the way, when I listen to, I can tell you, this was so interesting this week, I can tell you where this front desk person who answered the new patient call is sitting, right? Because you can tell the commotion going on around them. And you can tell they were not prepared for a new patient call. That's my favorite part. The front desk person who picks up the phone, and you can tell they were in the middle of an insurance auth, they were trying to schedule a patient, they were doing something, and the last thing they needed and wanted was a new patient call, but yet that's the first thing your business needs. Sales role, admin support role. 2 completely different roles, physically and literally and figuratively, need to be separated, right? This is the issue with this. I had a short conversation with someone on Twitter that brought this whole idea up, right? So there has to be an acknowledgement, and by the way, this is what else came up. There has to be 100% acknowledgement that the people you currently have doing both these roles may not be a fit for both roles. So you're gonna have to do some work to see who can help you out with the sales role and who truly is the admin support role. Because I guarantee you, they're not interchangeable. As God is my witness, as clear as the sun comes up today and goes down, those people are not interchangeable. And good admin support is not gonna be great at sales, and a great salesperson is not gonna be good at admin support. And you keep trying to put that square peg through the round hole. So acknowledgement number 1 is, do I have the right people? And usually with most of the clinics I work with, we end up shifting some people around and it works. Other clinics, are you prepared to let people go? Mind you, the bulk of people I've worked with have shifted seats around. But we get this emotional connection because why? Because we made the bad hire. There's no such thing as you never hire a bad person. You hired the wrong person for the role you were looking for. That's on you. That's on you. You. And we get emotionally attached, and it's like, well, they can do it. And then you put them in my front desk training program, and like, they can't do it. They can't do it. So what are you going to do? You're going to shift them over? And then you got to hire a salesperson because they're costing you. Here's the thing. It's an objective measure, people. They're costing you business. You're costing you business. When you don't understand the difference and the duality of this role, love that word, you're costing business. When I do my secret callers, your front desk is costing you business. More times than not, when I'm not scheduled on the secret caller, 60% of the time, the business does not know I called. How can you improve and grow your business if you don't know how many calls you had and why people don't schedule? Because I'm going to tell you right now, of that 60% who didn't schedule me, 90% of them was on the front desk making a decision not to schedule me. I didn't have a referral in a direct access state. That's the biggest one. So again, we've got to understand this duality. It's a sales role, it's a admin support role. We've got to separate them down the middle. We've got to separate the tasks. We've got to make checklists. And by the way, when you make a checklist, you have to take the last step. You have to have accountability. You've got to meet with them weekly and bring your checklist with you. There's no better way to get people to complete things than tell them you will be following up with them. The best accountability in the world is to say, I will be following up with you next week to see how this went. And then at the very first meeting, when they don't bring it and they go, oh, I wasn't aware, go, okay, that's cool. We're meeting again next week. This was your one time to not bring it next week. So again, let me go through this. We have to understand there's a sales role and an admin support role. We need to take all those tasks that are on that paper and we need to separate them. And we need to create workflow, morning, noon, and night, right? So that'd be daily. And then what needs to be done weekly, because some of the tasks that were being attended to daily needed to be just checked on every Friday. Daily, weekly, monthly. And then put the flow together. And then hold them accountable, schedule a meeting. I used to do EDMs with all of my front desk people, employee development meetings. They were 15-minute long weekly meetings where they brought their task lists and their accountabilities. Everything that, the whole meeting was their responsibility. They brought me what was going well, what wasn't going well, what their metrics were for the week, their checklist, and what they needed help on. I was to show up and help them and have a conversation with them about their role as needed. This role is way too important. You know, everybody does this with the providers. We do in-services for our providers. I'm like, where's the fucking in-service for the front desk? Con Ed, where's the Con Ed for the front desk? Where's the weekly meetings with the front desk? Where's the accountability for the front desk? Got to get out of this provider-only mindset. Because, you know why? Because the providers are doing their job, and you're piling more and more on them. And we need to spread this out evenly and make the front desk team accountable to all these different things that I just talked to you about. And take some of the load off of the provider so they can deliver exactly what they need to deliver, which is getting patients through a completed plan of care, creating happy patients, right? So this is understanding that patient life cycle. It's going to be interesting. As you guys come back and see this video, let's see how many views and comments there are. If I tell you, I'll tell you the 3 things to ask a new patient so they'll schedule, I'll get 1,000 views. If I tell you, look, we got to bust up this front desk role and do some work, everybody's magically busy today doing something really important off their task list, like drinking coffee, right? This sales portion that I'm talking about today is the least understood, least leveraged, least valued step in your business flow, right? How do I know that? Because everybody's paying for marketing. And by the way, how do we know marketing is not the hard part? It's because there's a million ads in my feed to help you with your marketing. I literally saw the first sales ad in my feed this week. Retention? Sure, retention's easy. If your marketing and your sales is right, retention's easy. But even retention in a churn and burn clinic is easy because you build the systems out and then you blame the patients for drop-offs. So the sales portion is the one that's going to grow your business, not the marketing, not the retention. And I'm happy to have that conversation with you. But retention, Jerry, is why people stay. And I say, yeah, but you can influence retention greater during the sales process than you can after you cram them on the schedule. Well, Jerry, marketing gets me my leads, right? And sales works very closely with marketing to give you the information, to give you the best leads who will what? Arrive, pay, stay, and do your marketing with you. So sales is, you know, literally the middle child, the forgotten middle child there that actually has the biggest impact on the systems before and after. So again, this whole thing today was how to better establish your sales team, right? Separate that front desk because you have bunched your sales team, the most valuable member of your team, in with a admin support team. And you don't allow your sales team to do the jobs and do the tasks that they need to do to grow your business. And then you go to retention and you go to your providers and yell at them to keep all these people who shouldn't have been on the schedule in the first place and who would stay if they had their expectations managed better. And then you tell them to get all those leads, all those web forms, all those calls. You tell them to get those people scheduled when the majority of them shouldn't be scheduled because if the sales team was feeding back to the marketing team, you'd have better leads. Your sales team is the most important member of your team. They set the provider and patient up for success. Without a great sales team, your providers churn and burn out. It's time to embrace the sales team. And I just told you how to take step 1. Go back through this video. I put it all in there. It's all actionable. It's exactly what I'm doing with a couple of companies right now. We're going through this and we're just about done mapping out the tasks and starting to separate out these roles because we're going to determine who is going to be the best salesperson on their team. But before we could do that, we had to separate this all out and give people the opportunity to answer the phone. Okay? All right. Appreciate your time, appreciate your energy, and I look forward to seeing you next week. Cheers.